as we enter 2026, the debate is AI a bubble or is it a game changer? How do you see it? When critics of AI make an argument that it's just a bubble, what would you tell them?
So you may be shocked for me to say that this is a transformational technology. We're going to be releasing data here over the next couple of days showing that those folks, those individuals, those companies that are using AI and building it into their systems are seeing a 7x multiplier on their economic productivity. Meaning that if you're an individual, you're producing 7 times more economic value for the company. Or if you're a company, you're able to translate that into 7 times more value for what you are producing through that employee. This is what's called a general purpose technology. And to put that in historical context, I know I'm talking to folks all over India, and in India, history is always really important. Like, this technology is on par with other general purpose technologies, the wheel, the combustion engine, the digital chip. These are all technologies that fundamentally changed growth, changed progress. And so you have to think about it being on that type of a scale. And one of the things that we're really spending a lot of time talking about, and I think is particularly relevant to India, is something called the capability gap. And what we're seeing right now is individuals, companies, countries that are successfully building this in are getting that economic growth. Those that are not potentially are going to be left behind in this. And so we really think about this year, 2026, as the year that we really begin to try to address that capability gap. Healthcare, education, what's called enterprise, building this in the companies, and even something that we call OpenAI for countries, which is how can we work with countries so that they're building AI into their socioeconomic infrastructure. And India has the AI summit in a couple of weeks. Like, the world's here in Davos, but the entire AI world is going to descend on Delhi in about a month's time. And India is just at the center of this conversation. You're one of the countries that you're seeing sort of the most adoption at the fastest rate. And so as you think about India building out what I think is going to be the world's biggest, strongest, most robust middle class out there, like, this technology is going to play a transformative role, not just globally, but particularly in India.
Chris, before we go further into the India opportunity, I just want a broader question, because a lot of people, especially in the public markets, are focused on what is some people, some experts and economists say is an AI bubble. Very simple question from your point of view. Is there an AI bubble?
I'll answer it this way. Tomorrow, where we have 850 million people using AI on a regular basis, we have more than 4 million developers working with us, more than 1 million companies just working with us. Tomorrow, those numbers will be higher. The day after that, they will be higher. The real issue here is whether you're actually going to build this in or whether you get left behind. Our belief is that you need to be spending this year, in particular, building this AI in. And if you're going to approach this as if it is a bubble, you potentially are going to put yourself on the downside of that credibility, that capability gap that we've talked about.
India, and you spoke about our own efforts, and for the benefit for our viewers, where does India stand in terms of OpenAI's customer base? Are we the largest emerging market? What's the data?
Yeah, we look at India and they're just fascinated by it. We've seen 2.5 times growth over the last year, over the last 12 months in India. Today, it is our second largest consumer market in the world, meaning everyday people using this on a regular basis. The only other country that's ahead of it is our country, the United States. It's also a top 5 country in developers. And why I think that is really important, I mean, you both know this, you cover this all the time, your audience knows this. I mean, India is producing some of the best and greatest tech talent, but not just tech, not just engineers, although engineers are incredibly important, but actually people who do the research on AI, the AI researchers. They're really the people who are building this. And India is really well positioned to fully participate, to lead in what we think of as the intelligence age, because it has such a talent base that's domestic, that's in the country. I think sometimes when folks think about this technology, there's a natural tendency to think about it like it's social media. It is not social media. This is a productivity driving technology. The way we think about it is, we are in effect trying to make electricity available to the world, but then the world gets to build in that electricity, right? People get to build their version of their stoves, their cars, their airplanes, but there's going to be a whole bunch of new industries built on top of AI, and India is just so well positioned. Given the consumer penetration, meaning people are learning to use this on a regular basis, and the fact that you have real talent to build this next generation of companies.
In November 2025, you officially made ChatGPT, OpenAI, free for its Indian users for 1 year beginning November 4th. Now, when you decided to take this free offer for users across the country, was the attempt to make India, in a sense, a testing ground for large-scale AI adoption, that you first want to build market access and then decide how you're going to use it? Was that the goal? Is that the goal? To see whether India can be the testing ground to see just how far you can take the AI market?
The only place I would maybe be slightly different than the way you put it is that for us, India is not necessarily a testing ground as much as it is one of the most important markets for us and really for anyone who's going to be in AI in the world, just because of the role India is going to play globally, the size of its population. It's a country that when we think about the most important markets for us, where we're going to invest our time, our resources, where we're going to commit to supporting the country, like India is just at the top of that list. I mean, if you think about the fact that we have 850 million people using this on a regular basis, yes, and India is the second largest of the countries, that should tell you how important it is.
But Chris, a lot of people in India, or at least some, lose sleep over the fact that we haven't developed a large language model. Yeah. We lose sleep over the fact that companies from outside of India have access to Indian consumers. And therefore, there are also fears that this will have impact on jobs. For India, jobs are very, very important given the same size of population that you spoke about. Should we be losing sleep over the fact that we haven't yet developed something that is close to ChatGPT or other similar models?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I get this question, not just in India, but in other places in the world. And I want to be really respectful in terms of how I address it. I think the reality is that in the world that we are in today, and again, I say this with just the utmost respect, right? There are two countries in the world that have the capacity to build those frontier models at scale. Right now it's the U.S. and it's the People's Republic of China. All that said, this technology, as I've talked about, is akin to electricity. And so at some level, it is less whether you're going to build the frontier model than whether you're going to take that electricity and then build all the things on top of that electricity. And that's why India is just exceptionally well positioned for that. And so this is not this is not social media. It's not an extractive technology. Social media is not coming into India. It's not social media that came into India, generated revenue, and took that out of India, right? This is technology that's going into India for Indians to build for India, by India, of India. You take some of the biggest companies, they're going to be able to build on top of this technology. You take a small business, and suddenly so I was sharing off before we came on camera that I'm traveling with India with my family, my wife. She is a huge fan of Indian fabrics. Think of all the small, what we would call mom and pop shops that build Indian clothes and fabric. With this technology, those companies can suddenly become international companies because they're able to use this tech to project themselves to the world.
No, but can I push you on that? Because, that's the big debate. That, yes, you could possibly increase revenues. Yeah. You mentioned 7x, yes, is what you're suggesting. But it could also take jobs. Yes. And in a country like India, just the sheer fear of losing jobs is now across the board when it comes to AI. How does one address the critical question of what AI does to job markets, to labor markets in countries like India?
So what I would say is, I don't know if this is 2 words or 3 words, AI literacy. I mentioned that this is a general purpose technology. I'm going to use one of my favorite historical analogies. This is our generation's version of the printing press. Which countries succeeded when the printing press came out? The countries that built in literacy programs into their social fabric. And so those countries that are able to actually develop AI literacy amongst their population are going to be the countries that are best positioned to succeed. And you look at what's going on. You look at China, which has a program to try to make as many of their people literate as possible. I think Japan has a goal of 80% of Japanese people literate in AI by 2030. India already starts off with a big advantage because of the penetration, because the inherent interest. I do think there's something in the Indian DNA that leans into technology, that gets excited for this stuff. And so you're just seeing it organically happen. And so if India, from a government perspective, from a business perspective, from a community perspective, can really think about that literacy piece, then you're going to grow all sorts of economic opportunities. And look, I think some of this technology is going to reward those who are willing and interested in using it to empower themselves. It does bring down barriers. I mean, you have a device in your hand right now. Think of the wealthiest person in the world and maybe just a regular person. If they have that device in their hand with AI, they're on equal ground and equal footing. And so for a country like India, which is looking to make the great leap forward, right, that big step into becoming the world's largest middle-class economy, this technology unlocks that.
So what happens to those who say that projections of blue-collar and white-collar workforce could get affected if companies decide to use AI in a way to cut costs?
So I think what we've been seeing so far is what you're seeing is that people are using the technology to increase the productivity of their current workforce. Now, I do think as we go forward, right, this technology is not static. It's going to continue to accelerate, continue to get better, continue to get stronger. We think this year you're going to see breakthroughs in health, in science, along with education and companies building it in. But to your specific question, I do think countries need to think about this from a transitional perspective. That comes back to the literacy piece. Do you start to build in AI training, job certification, those types of programs, not just for kids going through public school, but also for that mid-career person, for that person who's maybe doing a job right now that either, if they learn this technology, they're going to be better at that job and they're going to be more valued. So not just young people, but also people mid-career.
I think what Chris is saying is 10, 20 years ago, in similar conversations, it was said that, coding should become part of school curriculum. And now it's AI, because AI can do coding for you. But there's a very interesting piece of data, and I wonder if you have a comment about this. Indian IT and IT-enabled services are a massive job creator in India, have been so for the past 3 decades. Very significant export earnings and revenues. Just 17 jobs added, Chris, across Indian IT companies, net additions in the past 1 year. Now, we don't have a breakup of how many of those jobs, which used to normally be in the tens of thousands, did not happen on account of AI. But Indian IT companies are responding to AI by buying AI companies, by winning AI projects. What are the prospects, according to you, for the Indian IT and IT-enabled services companies? Because it's one of the largest job creators, revenue generators in India.
Yeah, you're really hitting on this concept that I've mentioned a couple times here, but this capability gap. I do think for the Indian IT sector, there is going to be a real imperative for them to build the AI into their systems right now so that they're going to be well positioned as this economy goes into the future, right? It's not just the new companies, it is existing companies. I think one of the variables that I'm not sure anyone really knows the answer to, but is going to be, are legacy companies able to build this in, benefit from it, or is this going to help new companies that emerge? And I think in India, those IT companies, which have generally been pretty innovative, if they are able to have the foresight and ability to build this into their systems, then I think they're going to be well positioned as we go forward.
So would you agree with a question that will AI kill the back office?
I think what it will do is make the back office more powerful. It will make the back office able to do even more. I do think some of this stuff will transition. Like, I think we do need to be honest about that, right? Every time you have gone through technology shifts in global history, right, you've had some jobs that have been displaced. Typically, a lot more new jobs get created on the other hand. I mean, in the U.S. right now, there are more jobs that exist now than existed, new jobs than existed prior to the Second World War.
Give me an example of an industry where new jobs will be created through AI.
Well, I think that what you're going to see is in the healthcare space. you're going to be able to have people who right now may not be licensed to perform direct medical primary care, who are going to be able to use this technology. In the U.S., think of someone like a domestic healthcare worker. They're typically people who go into a home, make sure that an elderly person or a young person is physically okay, but they're not really able to provide direct healthcare. With this technology, there's going to be the potential for those types of folks to actually directly provide that healthcare. That's going to be a version of what you saw when electricity came, when lamp lighters, the people who used to light the lamps with the oil, became electricians. When the people who drove the horses became truck drivers, and each time you ended up having more. Now, I do think that what's really important with this particular technology is the pace that it's going to move at. And if jobs get displaced while new jobs are getting created, what is the time lag between those two things? And so what I think is really, really important for both for businesses, but also for countries, and I know the Prime Minister is thinking about this, is how are you able to take the real-time data that you're seeing from AI and translate that into government policies so that you're making it as easy and straightforward as possible for this generation's lamplighter to become an electrician very fast.
As a final question, what AI has done is total disrupt. It's disrupted the world as we knew it. I come from the typewriter age. I started as a journalist working on a typewriter. Was that it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, so I was on a typewriter. We've seen the world change enormously. A year from now, what's that one big thing you think the world should be prepared from OpenAI? Something that you think they've never seen before? Is there something out there that's going to be the next big thing in AI?
Okay, I'm going to give you two things since you asked. The first is I do think you will see, and whether it's from us or others, but I think you'll see it off of our technology, some incredible advances in science. Last year was agentic AI, right, where you literally could be a non-coder, go into chat, and actually do coding, right? I mean, I am someone who does not know how to do coding. I'm actually able to build programs now using this. I mean, I think all of us, those of us from the typewriter age, are able to do coding now. I think 2026 is going to be the year of science, where you see this technology leading to acceleration and breakthroughs in science and in ways that are going to impact folks every day. I think a second, and I'm not going to say too much about this because I don't want to get too far ahead, but I think maybe towards the latter part of the year, you'll see AI in devices, right? It's well known that we're working with Johnny Ive, the maker of the iPhone, on a device, and there's a lot more that will be coming on that, and so I would put people in that direction.
Wow.